And you are welcome back to Off the Ball. Now today the future of Limerick FC was put into serious doubt. An examinership process to keep the trading company afloat ended without success. A liquidator is now likely to be appointed and the club will not play in 2020 because it was not granted a League of Ireland licence. Now this wasn't a major surprise. The South Western Circuit Court in Ennis heard today an investor had been identified but not enough progress had been made since the examinership process began in September. Munster Football Club Limited, which trades as Limerick FC, had debts of 490 grand at the beginning of the examinership process, and a statement from the club today revealed the extent of the issues. This obviously coming in the week or thereabouts of the FAI's statement about its own crisis. The examiner of the company behind Limerick FC today returned to the South Western Circuit Court in Ennis to remove court protection, spelling the end of an examinership process which has been ongoing since September 2019. Conor Noon of Baker Tilly Chartered Accountants told the court that while an investor had been identified, that party did not engage with him in the manner required in recent weeks, and in order to firstly secure a licence for First Division football next season, nor secondly the funding necessary for the formulation of a scheme of arrangement with Limerick's creditors. When entering the examinership process in September, Munster Football Club Limited, which trades Limerick FC, had debts of approximately 490,000, and Conor Noon, Senior Corporate Recovery Manager at Baker Tilly, said it's not the outcome they wanted. So we're now joined by Tommy Barrett, who is or was the manager of Limerick FC. Tommy's future was in some doubt in any event because of the chaos that had engulfed the club this season on many levels, particularly off the pitch, and Limerick did quite well on the pitch in the circumstances. But Tommy joins us in studio. Tommy, this is another sad day for football in Limerick and in Ireland.
Yeah, I think so, Johnny. It's really disappointing. I think it's the first time since 1937 it looks like there isn't going to be a club in the city, in the county and in the region.
Which would make it the second longest running club in the League of Ireland.
Yeah, which is obviously a huge disappointment. We in Limerick pride ourselves as a sporting city and a sporting county, and it becomes a huge blow, but, not overly surprised.
Why are you not surprised?
Well, the examinership process, since the start of it, I suppose, I didn't see much headway being made. We had a lot of rumours and stuff going around, but, during the process, it just didn't look like there was anything going to happen. You'd always get a feeling if Limerick's like a village, as you'd get a feeling if someone was really interested in taking over the club, and no one seemed to be coming out of the woodwork to do that.
And considering, as you mentioned, Limerick is a sporting city with a great tradition of football at youth level and at clubs in Limerick level, how has it come to this, that a club that has had obviously various incarnations and reincarnations, but I travelled to the Markets Field after maybe the first or second season after you used Thomond Park. There was a great buzz in the place when you played Finn Harps in the playoff. What was there, 4,000 or 5,000 there 2 years ago, and now you've come to this within a couple of seasons. The whole thing's gone bust.
Yeah, I suppose that's there's a complex answer to that. You say we've a huge tradition, a huge history, but we really haven't been successful in 40 years. So actually probably the previous 2 years or the previous 7 years to the last two have been success up and down. But we spent 20 years in the First Division with very low numbers, struggling along. So I think the last senior international we had was like 40 years ago, that we produced in Limerick. And for a town and a city and a county that size, that's
staggering.
It's staggering, yeah. When you consider you're from Galway, and how many internationals have you got in the last, a number of years? Yeah,
and I would argue, without really knowing much about this, I would argue that the strength of soccer in Limerick could probably be stronger than Galway. It's a bigger place, and Galway would have obviously 2 or 3 particularly strong clubs. But why has Limerick not been able to produce players, considering the amount of players that play football in Limerick?
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of factors there. We didn't get things right from the start. There's no real home base for many years. We didn't have the Markets Field, and even now, I would argue that that's not, it's not owned by the club, so it's not a home base. There's no really training facilities to train. The structures, it's probably similar to a lot of places in the countries, but the structures aren't there. The schoolboy league themselves don't have a ground to play matches on. They don't have a ground to train in. Now they're doing a good job down there, in fairness to them. And the LDMC have a ground, obviously, and it's a good ground in Jackman Park. But, the infrastructure isn't there first and foremost. And then, junior soccer is strong. There's some very strong junior clubs. but that doesn't seem to translate onto the senior football. Now, the last number of years since the introduction of the underage system, we've produced players all right. We have players playing around the league, you know, whereas in the past we wouldn't have too many even playing around the league from Limerick City, you know, and obviously Limerick County as well. So another reason probably is that there's a lot of sports. You know, everyone plays every sport in Limerick. You know, rugby is huge, is massively strong. Hurling is strong. You know, Gaelic football isn't as strong, but you know, people play it, and they play tag rugby. So you know, the concentration. There's a lot of social sport, and I mentioned tag rugby. There's a lot of social sport as well, and you know, so that could be a factor as well. But I suppose at the end of the day, we haven't got the structures right in Limerick City and that region. We haven't got the structures right. And I suppose, look, there's many reasons for that. You know, it's similar to the problems with the FAI are having. You know? Well,
in a strange twist, Pat O'Sullivan today, who obviously is the owner of Limerick, he said it's scandalous the way the FAI has treated me, and that's from a Limerick Leader report in which it says a judge today discharged the appointment of an examiner, and Pat O'Sullivan was in court. He said it's scandalous the way the FAI has treated me. The FAI has put every obstacle in the way of the club, and ultimately what will happen is that the club will have to just fold, and Pat O'Sullivan is out of sight and out of mind. Now, what's your relationship been with Pat O'Sullivan, and is it fair to say Pat O'Sullivan is very much to blame for what's happened to Limerick, because his refusal to let the club go, and it was obvious that the Pat O'Sullivan run club was not going to get a licence this year?
I don't know, that's a difficult question to answer, John.
And it's given a lot to Limerick as well.
Yeah, you know, so, you know, we have to be fair, and, you know, even
that's not here.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I suppose I don't really want to play the blame game. You know, I think I've said that from the very start. You know, as I said previously, the previous 7 years probably, you know, there was 3 or 4 very good years there under Pat's stewardship. But it's been really a difficult period for him the last few years, as we can see with the FAI as well. But I suppose talking about going forward, it's an opportunity now, and that's the way I would like to look at it for whoever comes in. And if it's the people of Limerick, or, you know, if it's external investors or external people, whoever comes in, that they don't make the same mistakes as the past, that they put a sustainable model in place, you know, and that's what needs to happen. You know, get your own ground, whether the council is involved in that, or, you know, there's private investors, but you need to get your own ground, link up with the colleges, get your own training facilities, and put lads through college, and those type of things that we have to look at. But there has to be a sustainable structure going forward.
Now, as far back as April, Pat was defending John Delaney when the FAI CEO of that time was under pressure. Did Pat alienate himself a bit from the club? Because I presume that wasn't the stance of everyone at Limerick at that time, and, you know, it seemed a bit strange that Pat O'Sullivan was coming out defending John Delaney in light of what was happening. And look where he is now, giving out about the FAI today.
Yeah, again, but look, we look at the FAI. The FAI have a lot of good people. You know, I worked with the FAI myself as a development officer in Limerick for 4 years, and, you know, there's a lot of good work going on within the FAI with the grassroots and the lads on the ground. There's development officers there coming up to Christmas that could be losing their jobs. You know, the talk is that could happen. Hopefully that won't happen. But, you know, even the underage international setup, you have some fantastic coaches there, you know, up-and-coming coaches, like Collie O'Brien, Paul O'Sam, you know, Jason O'Donoghue, you know, Tom Mohan, all those lads, Jim Crawford's in with the 21s. So all those lads have been development officers, are development officers, or working coach education. And, you know, I feel sorry for those lads, because they're tarnished with that now, and they've nothing got to do with the running of the FAI, you know. And it's probably similarly in Limerick. You know, you have to, you know, we're all tarnished with this because it's falling apart. But look, I don't know the real reasons why it's falling apart, or the full reasons, and I don't want to be sitting here playing the blame game. I just want to look at opportunity, and it's an opportunity to grow football in this country. Now, obviously on a micro scale with us, with Limerick FC, but on a bigger scale then with the whole FAI debacle at the moment, that it's time to push on now and not make it another talk shop, and just see can we get put structures in place and see can we get real proper results. I think that needs to happen. We need to create an industry. We haven't got one.
We don't have a football industry in this country. I spoke to you many times this year about what was going on in Limerick. You were owed wages. Obviously, lots of people were owed money by the club. You were a young manager who I would argue has done a very good job with the resource you had on the pitch. You were targeting a position this year that you couldn't attain because of financial issues. But where are you now? What age are you now? And where are you with the League of Ireland? Because you must be thoroughly frustrated to come to this conclusion today.
Yeah, look, I'm 40 years of age. I suppose I'm young for a manager. You know, I've attained the pro licence. Yeah, I was a bit disillusioned, I think, looking at it and looking at the industry as a whole. But, you know, football, you love it and you're addicted to it, really, so you want to stay in and around it. But, you know, I never went full-time in this country because, you know, yeah, I couldn't afford to, you know, and the lads that do that are very brave.
It's an oxymoron. I couldn't afford to go full-time.
Yeah. You know, because you can't take the chance, you can't take the risk. And maybe that's looking at Limerick. You know, I played most of my football with Limerick, and it always would be the same, very little money, and, you know, your back's against the wall kind of thing. So, you know, maybe that was in my head all the time as well. And, excuse me, I probably wasn't brave enough to take a leap and go full-time. But it might have been good enough either, you know, so you have to look at it that way too. But I just don't think there's an industry here at the moment, bar maybe, you know, there's one or two clubs doing very well, Dundalk and Shamrock
There's
Rovers.
no money in the league. There's no. If you're saying Limerick, the new Limerick has an opportunity, there isn't much of an incentive to join the League of Ireland at the moment.
No, there isn't. I agree with that, Johnny, but that's where they have to get the structures right from the top, you know. But whilst there's no money there, you have to keep the club going, and hopefully, you know, the FAI will allow a team to go in, or someone will go in with a team, and that's just, you know, if you're playing with young lads that are going to college, that want to play for the jersey, and just, you know, develop players that way, you know, for 2 or 3 years, you know what the results are going to be like. Or, you know, if you finish anywhere above bottom, you're going well, but just keeping the show on the road for now, you know, might be the way to go, you know. But then you have to look at the bigger picture and get more full-time coaches into the league, pay the proper wage and proper contracts. You know, we're putting lads through the coach education system where they have to attain licences that are costing, you know, more than PhDs, you know, and then, you know,
and then what job is there?
Yeah, what job is there out of it, you know? So where's the industry? So you're spending up to 20 grand trying to attain a qualification, and where are you going, you know? And I'm looking back at that and going, should I have done my pro licence? You know, I'm thinking, what was the point in doing the pro licence?
Yeah, but Tommy, if you compare it to some countries north of us, we'll say even Iceland with a tiny population has a football industry of some description. Then you look at Scotland, Sweden, Denmark and Norway and so forth. Surely there's potential for Ireland with the right financial structures to at least be able to have a professional league in a country in which we should be reminded it's the most participation sport of the whole lot.
Yeah, I think we should, Johnny. You know, and we have enough coaches now, and the coach education programme again is a success with the FAI. I think it's a good programme. It's well run. It's you know, it's coordinated very well. The pro licence was a very good experience. You know, there was a lot of learning on it. And I would say the A licence and the ones underneath as well, they've redeveloped them now with the C licence and the PDP coaching plans, but they've been excellent, you know. And as I said, the underage structures are really good as well. So, and you can see that with the results with the 21s and the underage now with the 19s and so forth. But it's you're right, it's money. It'll take investment, and, you know, we got to get instead of probably having 20 committees and, you know, I don't know what kind of money is spent on all these committees and talk shops, we need to put it where it's needed, into coaching and infrastructure. They're the two main things that we need to develop in this country. And the sooner we realise that, the better, you know. And hopefully that can happen. Now, where does the investment come from?
Well, for example, last night I was at the HRI Awards and JP McManus was there, and in Galway there's a lot of, I suppose, enthusiasm at the moment because of the money the Comer brothers put into Galway United. Now, JP, I know he's had some sort of relationship with Limerick in the past, but surely if JP were approached in a philanthropic mind, he could maybe look to a new Limerick entity and see the benefit from that, because in fairness to JP, he does care greatly about Limerick.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. You know, he's been fantastic for the city and county and beyond, you know. But again, I think he likes to put.
He's not going to throw money away.
He's not going to throw money away in wages. You know, he wants to put it in, and he shouldn't. And I don't think we should. And, you know, this is the point. You know, we need to develop a proper infrastructure around the whole country, not just Limerick, where we have, you know, academies of excellence and training academies and proper programs with professional coaches, and we build it from the bottom, and then you don't have to pay out huge wages, you know. So like, if we're paying lads and we're putting them through college and we're developing college leagues as well, and they're getting an education out of it, like UCD have a good model there, and everyone's a winner, and that's where we have to go in Limerick and certainly beyond, I would say, because we don't have the support base, you know, at this moment in time. But again, if we build infrastructure, I think that's the most important thing. If we get the stadiums right, it's more attractive for people coming there as well.
Sure, somebody going to watch Munster at Thomond Park is hardly going to be inspired by going to the Markets Field with all due. Just finally, who's your sympathy with today? Because mine is, I suppose, primarily with the club, but also with the fans who now don't have a football club support. I'm thinking of the likes of Gary Spain, who's followed Limerick all his life, all over the country, probably with his dad. Limerick has been in existence, whatever age Gary is, Limerick has always been in existence. And today he wakes up and he doesn't have a club anymore. Yeah,
it's actually, Gary sticks out in your head, and there's a lot more lads as well. You know, we have, in fairness, we have always had, you know, at least 300 diehard fans, I would call them. You know, they travel everywhere and they're really good. And it's those lads you feel sorry for. But look, it's the players, it's the future players. You know, it's the lads that are 18, 19, 20 now that, you know, we blooded a lot of good young lads last year now, and you know, we already had 2 or 3, you know, Galway benefiting from that as well. You know, to have last year, you know, Cork and Sligo and other clubs are going to benefit as well from that. And it's great that they're going to stay in the league, and I'd hope that they stay in the league, but I'd worry about the 16, 17, 18-year-olds in particular.
Might be lost again.
Yeah, they might be lost again.
And are you on the lookout for another job in management now, or?
Yeah, rule not out, Johnny. You know, like, you know, as I said, you know, yeah, you're addicted to it, you love it. I love the game, but you know, like any other manager in this league, you know, I think we're passionate about it. And as I said, a lot of lads in the FEI, there's a lot of great lads working there as well that are passionate about developing football in this country. And I think not me in particular, but a lot of those lads, you know, need to get together and their voices need to be heard and see where we're going with this league, because I love the league. I've been involved in it, you know, nearly 20 years now, and it's
heartbreaking.
It is, you know, and the last few weeks have been tough because with everything that has gone on in the FEI, and particularly the last week or two, it's disappointing. But you know, look, there's worse things happening in the world, so we just need to bang our heads together now and get the egos out of the room, you know, and just look at what's it about. First and foremost, it's about the players, and secondly, for me, it's about entertainment. And then after, if you get the players right and you grow a positive league where it's a good, attractive style of football, when the infrastructure is right, but you have to get that infrastructure right first before you can play that attractive football. And then you bring the crowds and you grow up then and you're supporting Limerick FC rather than Liverpool, you know, and that's what we should be trying to attain in this country, but that needs money.
Thanks for coming in.
Sound, Johnny.